Section 21 of God's Terrible Voice in the City by Thomas Vincent. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Sinners, turn from your evil ways. 11 to 20. 11. God calls upon London by the voice of his judgments to prepare for greater troubles. The face of God seems to threaten greater troubles. There is little sign that God's brow is smoothened now more than it was before the fire. There is little evidence of the appeasement of God's anger. The face of the times seems to threaten greater troubles. The cloud over London and England is still very black, and seems to be thicker than it was before. God's own people are like to undergo greater troubles. Some of them have endured much, but they are like to endure much more. Some of them have suffered deeply, but they are like to suffer greater things more generally. They have been brought low by affliction, but not so low as others be. When others of God's people are stripped of all, they enjoy a comparative prosperity. They are not so low as they deserve to be. Their gospel-reproaching sins deserve far greater severities. They are not so low as they may have need to be. They may need greater troubles to unite them more one to another in their affections, to further their sanctification, to wean and loosen them more from the world, to humble them for, and purify them more from sin, to exercise and brighten more their graces. They are not so low as possibly they must be before they be exalted. The night is the darkest before the day breaks. The storm is the fiercest many times in its last blast, and the afflictions of God's people are the sorest before God gives them deliverance. God lays his people most low when he intends their highest exaltation. Surely the expected shock is not yet over, and God's people's most dreadful sufferings seem to be near, very near, even at the doors. The intent of the late judgments by plague and fire seems plainly to be for the fitting and preparing of them for more smart and heavy strokes. If God had permitted those expected sufferings to have come upon them more suddenly, they might have found them more unready. God hath given them time to prepare, and awakening warnings to prepare, and when will they be ready to suffer like Christians, like Protestants, if now they be not ready? The profane and wicked generation in the land are like to endure greater troubles, as hath been shown, pages 91, 92, and 93, and when the storm of God's anger doth break down upon them, are there no drops likely to fall upon London? Is not the whole land likely to be in danger of ruin when God doth deal with the ungodly and wicked crew whom he spares for some time, whilst he punisheth so severely the more righteous? The troubles of London have been great, but methinks it is evident that London is in danger of greater troubles. Therefore they have need to make preparation, which they have had such awakening calls unto. Some possibly may think the bitterness of London's troubles is over, because their troubles have been so bitter, that the sharp winter cold is gone, when it was so sharp in the midst of winter, and the sun had got to some height. But March can bring in as cold nipping frost as December and January did, and when the spring of prosperity is expected by some, they may find the sharpest part of the winter of troubles to be behind. Prepare therefore London for greater troubles. 12. God doth expect that London should trust no more in arms of flesh, but in himself alone. By these judgments God hath shown to London the weakness and insufficiency of arms of flesh, what broken reeds they are. Some put their trust in men, and their great expectation of relief and comfort hath been from their friends. By the plague God hath shown how frail and weak man is, how like grass, or a flower that quickly withereth, or is cut down, how like glass or a bubble which is easily broken and vanisheth. Many have lost by the plague their chief friends, upon whom they have had all their dependence, and the Lord hath shown how insufficient a foundation man is for anyone's trust and confidence. Therefore he calleth aloud to London to cease from man, whose breath is in his nostrils, for wherein is he to be accounted of? Isaiah 2 verse 22, not to trust in any of the sons of men, in whom there is no help, and the reason is, because their breath goeth forth, they return to their dust. In that very day all their thoughts perish. Psalm 146 verses 3 and 4. Some put their trust in their wealth and riches. Proverbs 18 verse 11, the rich man's wealth is his city, and a high wall is his own conceit. God hath by the fire, which hath consumed so much of the wealth of the city, shown how insufficient a foundation wealth is for any man's confidence. He hath made it evident that riches are uncertain, and that they fly away with eagle's wings, sometimes whilst the owners are looking on. May not that which is threatened, Psalm 52, verses 5 and 7, be spoken of many in London, that God hath rooted some of them by the plague out of the land of the living, plucked and forced others out of their habitations by the fire, and taken away their stay and prop from them, of whom it may be said, Lo, these are they that made not God their strength, but trusted in the abundance of their riches, and strengthened themselves in their wickedness. London, trust no more in arms of flesh, but trust in God alone. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in men. It is better to put trust in the Lord than to put confidence in princes. Psalm 118, verses 8 and 9. God is knocking off your fingers from all things here below. His will is that you should put your trust in him, which is one promised effect of great desolations and afflictions, that you should labour after. Zephaniah 3 verse 12, I will also leave in the midst of thee an afflicted and poor people, and they shall trust in the name of the Lord. You were not so forward to trust in the Lord when you had a greater abundance. Endeavour to trust in him now you are brought into greater poverty and affliction. His infinite power, wisdom, loving kindness, his promise, truth, and faithfulness are a strong bottom for your trust and confidence in God. Trust in him at all times, in the worst of times, when your danger is greatest. He will be your help and shield. Psalm 115, verse 11. He will be your refuge under oppression and present help in time of trouble. Psalm 46, verse 1. He will be your rock and fortress, your high tower to defend you, or your deliverer to redeem you out of all your troubles. Trust in God alone for all things. If you make use of creatures, do not lean and stay upon them, for they will slip from under you, but stay yourselves on God. Oh, the peace and quiet which this will yield in shaking, troublesome days, when others' hearts tremble within them, and are moved like leaves upon the approach of danger. You shall not be afraid of evil tidings, but have your hearts fixed, trusting in the Lord. Psalm 112, verse 7. 13. God doth expect that London should have death in continual remembrance. This God expects from the judgment of the plague. The death of so many thousands a week in London gave such a spectacle of mortality, and preached such a sermon in the city, as should bring the remembrance of death into their minds every day of their lives. The death, if it were but of one or two, should put you in mind of your latter end, but when you have seen so many go down into the pit before you, it should inscribe the remembrance of death more deeply upon your minds, the record of which you should look daily into. The gates of the city in the year of the plague seemed to have this inscription upon them, All flesh is grass. Let that word sound every day in your ears, and remember your bodies are exposed to the stroke of death every day, and though you have outlived the plague, that yet death hath you in the chase, and will ere long, you know not how soon, overtake you. Remember your glass is running, and will quickly be run out, and therefore all the days of your appointed time, as you should remember, so should you prepare for your great change. God expects that the remaining inhabitants of London should be prepared well for death now, when they have had death so much in their view. Some of you have been sick of the plague, and brought to the very brink of the grave. All of you have been in danger of the plague, when the disease was so sore and raging. I fear most of you were unprepared for death at that time, and had you died then, that it would have been with horror, and I believe that there are few of you, but did in the time of your fears and danger make vows and promises, if the Lord would shelter you from the arrows which flew about you, and spare your lives then, that you would lead new lives and be more careful to prepare for your change, so that death should not take you so unprovided any more. God expects the fulfilling of your promises, that you should live up to the vows which you made in the time of your distress, and so provide yourselves whilst you are well, that the messenger of death may have a welcome reception whenever he summoneth you to leave this world. 14. God expects that London should retain great impressions of eternity. You have had the door of eternity set wide open in your view, when so many were thronging in at the door, and I believe you had deeper apprehensions of eternity in those days than ever you had in your lives. Take heed that those impressions do not wear off, and that you lose not those apprehensions, especially when you are drawing every day nearer and nearer thereunto. Think often of the vast ocean of eternity without bottom or bank on the other side, into which the whole stream of time will empty itself, and how quickly the small rivulet of your appointed days may fall into it. Think often of the unalterable state of joy or misery which you must enter into at the end of your course. Think how thin and short the pleasures of sin are in this life, in comparison of the horrible and endless torments of hell, and how light and momentaneous the afflictions of God's people are here, in comparison with the exceeding and eternal weight of glory prepared for them in heaven. 2 Corinthians 4 verse 17. 15. God doth call upon London by the fire which burnt down the city to secure themselves against the fire of hell. London's fire was dreadful, but the fire of hell will be 1,000-fold more dreadful. The fire of London was kindled by man. Be sure some second cause was made use of herein, but the fire of hell will be kindled by God himself. Isaiah 30 verse 33. Tophet is ordained of old, for the king it is prepared. He hath made it deep and large. The pile thereof is fire and much wood, and the breath of the Lord like a stream of brimstone doth kindle it. The fire of London burnt the houses of the city, and consumed much of the goods. But the fire of hell will burn the persons of the wicked. Matthew 15 verse 41. Depart ye cursed into everlasting fire. The fire of London did burn most, but not all the houses in the city. Some are yet remaining, but the fire of hell will burn all the persons of the wicked. Not one of them shall escape and remain. The fire of London was extinguished, and did last but 4 days. But the fire of hell will be unextinguishable. It will burn forever. It is called everlasting fire, in which the damned must lie and burn eternally, without any possibility of ever getting forth. If you had known before of London's fire, where it would begin, and how it would spread and seize upon your houses, surely you would have taken some course for the prevention of it. You know before of the fire of hell. The word of God hath revealed it. O take some course for prevention of it, at least for securing of yourselves against it. When the fire was burning in London, you did fly from it, lest it should have consumed your persons as well as houses. O fly from the fire of hell, into which your persons will be thrown, if you go on in sin. Fly from the wrath which is to come. Fly unto Jesus Christ, who alone can deliver you. 16. God doth call upon Londoners by the fire, to be like strangers and pilgrims in the world. God hath burnt you out of your habitations, that he might loosen your affections from houses and riches, and all things here below, that he might unsettle you, unhinge, unfix you, that he might never think of rest and settlement in the creatures as long as you live. God calls upon you by this judgment to take off your hearts from this world, which is so very uncertain, and to be like strangers and pilgrims upon the earth, who are to take up your lodging here but a few days and nights in your passage to the other world. God expects you should live as those who have here no certain dwelling place, and therefore that you should not lavish away too much of your thoughts and affections and time about these uncertain things, which are of so short a continuance, and with which you cannot have a long abode. God hath by his judgments crucified the world very much before you, and he expects that the world should be crucified in you. God hath poured contempt upon the world, and set a mark of disgrace thereon. He hath cast dirt upon the face where you fancied before so much beauty to lie, and he expects that you should fall in esteem. And grow out of love with the world, and never go a-whoring from him to the creatures any more. 17. God calls upon London to make him their habitation. Psalm 90 verse 1. Lord, thou hast been our dwelling places in all generations. God is the hiding place, and he is the dwelling place of his people. You have lost your dwellings by the fire. Make God your habitation, and dwell in him, to whom you may have constant resort, and in whom you may have a sure abode. Get possession of this house by your union to God through his Son, and when you are in, keep possession, abide in this house, do not wander from him, and turn yourselves out of doors by breaking of his household laws. Make God your home, and labor to be much acquainted at home. Spend your time with God, and give your hearts to him. Rest and repose yourselves in God daily. Look for all your provisions in him and from him. Walk in him and with him. Make God your habitation. 18. God calleth upon London to seek after an abiding city. Hebrews 13 verse 14. We have here no continuing city, but we seek one to come. London hath reason to say the former, therefore let London do the latter. You have seen the city fall by the fire. Seek after a city which hath more lasting foundations, and is of such strong building that neither time can wear and weaken, nor flames of fire reach and consume. I mean the new Jerusalem which is above, the heavenly city whose builder and maker is God. There are mansions, abiding places for the saints. John 14, verse 2. There the wicked will cease from troubling, and the weary will be at rest. Seek after this city, labor for a title to it, lay up your treasure in it, get your affections set upon it. Above all trades, drive a trade for heaven, which in the issue will yield you the best returns. 19. God doth expect that London should labour to build his house. The neglect of God's house, I believe, hath been a great cause of the fall of so many houses in the city by fire. God expects that now you should endeavour the building of his house. Otherwise, I do not think that God will build again your houses. You may have an Act of Parliament for building the city, and set workmen about it, but unless God do enact it too, the building will never go forward. Unless God build the city, the workmen will labour in vain. Read and consider the prophecy of Haggai. Set about the work of reformation more vigorously, especially in the house and worship of God. 20. God doth expect that Londoners should dedicate themselves and families unto him. You have broken your baptismal and other vows, and God hath made great breaches upon you for your infidelity. Now renew your vows, give up yourselves to God, avouch him to be your God, and avouch yourselves to be his people, and live accordingly. Take up Joshua's resolution that whatever others in the land do, that you and your families will serve the Lord. Make it your only business in the world to serve God. Let religion have an influence upon all your actions. Do nothing without the warrant of God's precept. Let your conversation be such as becometh the gospel. Govern your families in the fear of God. Fill all your relations with duty. Learn more righteousness by God's judgments, and be quickened by them unto a more holy and strict walking. And if you yield such fruits as these, which God expects after his ploughing and harrowing of you, if you open your ear to the terrible voice of the Lord, which hath uttered itself in the city, and with full purpose of heart set about the practice of duties he expects and calls for, then you may hope that he will yet bind you up and plant you, that he will close your breaches and raise up your ruinous habitations, that he will make you glad according to the years wherein he hath afflicted you, and give you to see good days instead of those evil which you have seen and felt. Then the Lord will rejoice over you to do you good, and make London like Mount Zion, where he will pitch his tent and take up his habitation. Then he will compass you about with the bulwark of salvation, and prevent those farther utterly desolating judgments which you are in danger of. Yea, the Lord will be as a wall of fire round about you, and the glory in the midst of London, from whence his praise and your fame shall sound throughout the whole world. Soli Deo Gloria. End of section 21. End of God's Terrible Voice in the City by Thomas Vincent.